There's a spider over my head. There's a spider. Oh my goodness. Are you wanting to be in the video too? You're kind of distracting. Could you please go away now? Yeah, no, shoo shoo. On today's episode, I thought we would do a little more dupe, but a little bit ish. So dupe-ish. Kirkland inspired DIY. So like dupe adjacent. Yeah? They're gonna look a lot like the ones that you find on Kirkland, but I don't know. In my humble opinion, they're not exact matches. I don't know. You be the judge. Maybe you disagree. If you do, let me know. So let's get our DIY on.
Okay, this first DIY Kirkland dupe-ish is a candle holder that I found on their website for $49.99. Don't know about you, but I know for me that is just way too expensive for my taste. So let's find out if we can get this look for less. This first Kirkland inspired dupe, I just used a candlestick that I'd found at the thrift store. Now, the candlestick that I purchased, it was like a metallic color, and I wanted to deepen that a bit, so I went in with some antiquing wax. And then I just started randomly placing bits of chalk paint in trellis gray, sort of in different areas on the candlestick. You don't need to be too picky with this. Just place it where you want it. Now you want to make yourself a baking soda paint. So you're just going to take some white acrylic paint, inexpensive acrylic paint. You can often find it at the Dollar Tree, and some baking soda, and just mix that up into a cup until you end up with a consistency that's like super soft, melting soft ice cream. And then once you have that consistency, you just start applying it to the candlestick. I used a stippling brush because I find that and a chippy brush can add a ton of texture when you're working with baking soda paint, and I really wanted a lot of texture on this. So I went back and forth between a paintbrush, a chippy brush, and just sort of added as much texture as I could, letting some of that trellis gray and some of the darker brown color to show through. Then I took a glass vase that I found also at the thrift store, and I didn't want to make this permanent, so I just put it on top. If you wanted to, you could totally adhere that, using like a crazy glue or hot glue or E6000. But since I wasn't going to make that permanent, I decided against that. Then I just simply popped in a battery operated candle. Okay, and here's another look at the original candle holder, and now the one that I made. Tell me, what do you think? Do you think it is Kirkland enough to make it into the Kirkland-ish category? Okay, this next Kirkland-inspired DIY is definitely the easiest one of the bunch. I fell in love with these herb style photos. I did not fall in love with their $40 price tag, and even on sale at $30 or $29.99, it's still too rich for my blood. Especially knowing that all it would take is a quick trip to the dollar store and my printer. Okay, for this super simple Kirkland inspired DIY, all you're going to need is a couple of large, inexpensive frames from Dollar Tree or the dollar store, the ones that have glass in the front and the back. And then all I did was take some spray paint that I already had on hand in copper, gave the frames a couple of coats of paint, let them dry in between each coat. And then when I was done that, I went onto Canva. I created a couple of really easy, beautiful herb images that I just printed out on my printer in full color. I decided to go with herbs that I grow in my garden, but you could choose any herb plant that appeals to you. You can also go with a heftier cardstock if you choose, but quite frankly, I just went with everyday printing paper, and I think it turned out just fine. So that's completely up to you. Now I wanted the paper to sit not completely flush with the frame. I wanted there to be a little bit of the glass showing around, all around the image. So just using my paper cutter, I trimmed an inch off of both the top and bottom, and then off of each of the sides. It was just a simple matter of popping the glass back in, putting the paper image in the center of each of the frames, replacing the second piece of glass behind it, and then the little edging part that keeps everything in place, flipping down the tongs to keep the backing in place, et voila, it's done. But first, another look at the original one from Kirkland's. And now the dollar store dupe. Each one of these cost only the amount it cost to buy the picture frame, since I already had the copper spray paint on hand. Okay, this next Kirkland-ish dupe is actually a combination of two of their birds. So they have these wood carved ones and then these ceramic ones, and I just sort of blended the two to make another DIY. For this DIY, all you're going to need is a inexpensive, oversized bird. I see these all the time at the dollar store. I think I got this one from Dollarama, and I just painted out any of the little bits that were dark. The bird I had was already white, so I just needed to get rid of any of the spots that weren't that white color with a little bit of milk jug paint. And then I went in on the top of the bird's head with some of the Art Minds antiquing wax. You can use any brown antiquing wax, really. What you're going for here is sort of like a look of worn wood. So I applied the antiquing wax all over everything. Then I wiped it down with a cloth to make it so that it was a little bit lighter in color. And then I went in again with some more of the milk jug chalk paint and painted over some of the bits that I was just finding a bit too dark. I wanted the brown to show through, but I didn't want it to be incredibly rich in color. So just keep doing that back and forth, adding a bit of the antiquing wax and then a bit of the chalk paint until you kind of get, a look that you're happy with. You want to make the details on the bird really pop, and you want to focus a lot of the brown color, the antiquing wax, on the tail and the head of the bird, and I really liked it on the breast of the bird. And then wiping away any excess and then just working back and forth like that until you end up with the look that you want. Okay, here's another quick look at the two birds from Kirkland that we blended together. Okay, this next Kirkland-ish dupe is a gorgeous vase that I saw on their website. However, the $179.99 price tag was again just a little bit too rich for my blood. So I decided that a quick trip to the thrift store and some baking soda paint would do the trick. Let's see what you guys think. Was I successful? I just love how this turned out. So once you see it, let me know. Drop it in the comments. Do you love it too? Or is it just me? I'm pretty sure you're gonna love it too. So I just, again, thrift store fine. I found this old, I think it's like a cookie jar or something. I don't know. It's ugly. Whatever it was, I thought it was ugly. You might like it. I think it's ugly. I, again, opted to use baking soda paint because it would add a lot of texture. And then I just took that outside once the baking soda paint had dried and gave the entire thing a couple of coats of just some flat black spray paint. Now it was time for some fun. Using Art Minds chalk paint in copper, one in a very dark navy blue, a little bit of watered down white chalk paint, and a stippling brush, I just went in and went to town, adding little bits of color here and there, bit of dimension. On the bluer color, You'll see in a minute. I went light. I didn't want it to stand out too much, so I didn't go heavy-handed on that. And also with the copper, I just wanted touches of the copper. But between the two, it just really creates a lot of interest on this piece. And then to lighten everything up as I'm going along, you're just going to want to take... I used one of my chalk painting brushes. You can use whatever brush you have on hand, but you want one that's sort of thick and pounceable. And then I also, at times, if I found it went a little thick, would add a bit of water. So here's that blue color, the blue chalk paint I was talking about. It's a very rich, deep blue. Again, I didn't go very heavy-handed on this and used a very small stippling brush. I just wanted to add a little bit of the blue. But again, I didn't want to go too heavy-handed with this color. I just wanted to add a little touch. And then just to finish everything off, I used a little foam brush and some of the black onyx in folk art chalk paint and added touches of that here and there on the places that sort of were like higher, how do I explain this? And the places that were more pronounced. And there you have it, the finished look. But before we look at the one that we made, let's take a look again at the original one from Kirkland's. And then the one that we made. Okay, I know that I said that the herb images might have been the easiest DIY, but quite frankly, it's a coin toss. This one is super simple too. I just loved these white vases from Kirkland's, but again, at $62.99 on sale, that's just not going to happen. So luckily I happened to have a vase on hand that I was going to get rid of, and then I saw this and decided to give it a new lease on life. See how you think it turned out. Okay, now we're going to end this with the simplest DIY of all. I had this white vase. It had an interesting shape and handle. I've had it forever. And I was actually thinking about donating it until I saw this Kirkland vase. And I thought, oh my goodness, it's perfect. So all you need to do is find any simple white vase with a handle. Take some twine. I just used some inexpensive twine from Dollar Tree. Your glue gun. Again, any glue gun you have on hand. You can even get one from Dollar Tree. I mean, this is so easy, so simple. And then using your glue gun, add little dollops of glue to adhere the twine to the handle, and then just wrap the twine around and around the handle. To begin with, you're going to want to periodically place little bits of the hot glue, but once you get going, you just don't need to do that anymore. You just need to wrap until you get down to near the bottom. And then once again, you're just going to want to use that hot glue to adhere the twine to the handle. And truly, that's it. That's all you need to do. How simple was that? And you end up with a vase that looks identical to the one in Kirkland's. Or at least I think it does. So here's the original from Kirkland's, way overpriced. And then here is the one that we made. So tell me, what do you think? You love it? I kind of love it.
Well, that's it for today's Kirkland-inspired DIYs. I hope that you enjoyed that. If you did, make sure that you subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. If you hit the notification bell, it'll let you know when I upload next. And you might enjoy these.